Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. But the spirit jumped on me to go in. I've done a lesson on this before, a long time ago. But I wanted to go into this heavy idolatry with Jake, you know what I'm saying, the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans. And let me say this too, the Latin tribes are off the chain with the idolatry. What they'll do, let me show you what they do. 1 second. Right here, the Northern Kingdom. You see these counter right here? Let me click on this. So what they do, the Northern Kingdom, so-called Hispanic, so-called Mexicans, so on and so forth, the so-called Latin tribes, what they'll do is actually, have these candles. Somebody died, something like that. They'll have the candle with the idol, right, burning, or they'll put this in their house. They'll, when they worship all this madness. But this is an idol right here that the Northern Kingdom pray to. So we see this everywhere. Well, I have actually saw this in a lot of places. It's being a place of business. It could be in a home, so on and so forth. They got the rosary, you know what I'm saying? All idolatry. And let's go back here. So the Southern Kingdom, what they'll do the same. They do the idolatry, but they do it in a different way. Like these rappers, just use them as an example. You see what all of them are wearing? They're wearing a so-called Jesus piece, right? Which is that Jesus piece is Serapis Christos, and in the likeness of Serapis Christos. I'm gonna actually show you that idol. And then Cedric Borgia, because Serapis Christos came first. Then you had the modern image of what you have today as JC in the likeness of Cedric Borgia, but it still goes back into the imagery of Serapis Christos. Let me show you that. All right, let me read this insert at the top. It says Serapis Christos is the name associated with the Greco-Egyptian god Serapis, and specifically the debated historical theory that early Christianity adopted elements of his cult, or that the God was an early form of Jesus Christ. As they say, I'm just reading it as is. I hate that fucking name. But let me show you the likeness of this image right here. So to the left, if I click on this image, it's gonna shut me off. But if you see at the top to the far left, matter of fact, let me try. Maybe it won't do it. Right here. This is Serapis Christos. And it looks like what you see today with that idol of JC, right? But this ain't that new. This actually goes back into that time frame. But Ptolemy, Edomites, when they came into power, that they would erect these idols in different cults and different religions, mystery religions, that still go on to this very day. So let's go here. So what you see right now, what the masses of the people in the world, they are bound to that image, which is an idol. And the Southern Kingdom is about dumb as you can get. Northern Kingdom is dumb too. All the tribes are under this great illusion, this great spell, this great witchcraft. And this is who most people see in their mind. That's why when you say the J name, bloop, this pops up by default. This imagery pops up. Go here. This imagery pops up in people's mind by default when they say that name. That's why you have to drop that name and drop this image in your head and call on the true name and envision him to look like a so-called black man, like the scripture said. That's how you know the witchcraft has been removed from your mind. So let's go back here. These rappers are in gross darkness, you know what I'm saying? And look at this guy here, Kendrick Lamar. All of them, right? This was a popular trend back in the early 90s and 2000s, that Jake would wear the so-called Jesus piece, right? But look at this guy. This guy know he Israelite. Kendrick Lamar actually know he Israelite. That's why we tell you, Jace, just because they know they're Israelite don't mean shit. They mind still blacked out. They still in the world. It says closer look at the chain Kendrick Lamar wore to the Grammys. And you see that. That's Rapis Christos. That's Serge Borgia. If you could zoom in, to that, you'll see what it is. And he's supposed to be woken up, still asleep. Because he into all kind of confusion. And you see rapper after rapper, right? That, this trend is coming back. And you see Jake with a cross around their neck. They have the cross tattooed on them. They have the imagery of Cedric Ray Borgia tattooed on them as well. You know, all kind of madness with Jake. But I wanted to show you this as well. This is the imagery that pops up in my mind when I think about our people collectively, the Israelites, and going back into the scriptures of them playing a harlot. What is a harlot? A prostitute. So our people have spiritually committed prostitution by serving these other gods, right? By serving these other idols and doing it a lot of times willfully, right? Because the information is out here, but they willfully do this because this is all they know. But to go back into the legacy of Israel, the all 12 tribes doing idolatry. And that's why you see them in this bugged out, lost, confused state of mind. And that's why they so destroyed. And that's why collectively the Israelites are on the bottom. One common thing you should be able to see, you should be able to see it in the Bible, is the Israelites kept going into captivity. This is a recurring thing. So that's how you know you ought to be able to make that connection, Salakia, that the slave trade was the Israelites, because what happened to in the slave trade? The Israelites, so-called blacks and Hispanic and Native Americans, went into slavery. But you people only know about the transatlantic slave trade. Do you know the original so-called Native Americans, which would be the 10 tribes of Israel that was already here, that they classified a lot of them as Negro, so-called black? Did you know that? And they put them on slave ships and sent them across the world. They was doing the triangular slave trade. They was kicking Jakes out of what you know today as England, because Jake ruled all so-called Europe, which they renamed it Europe to cause the confusion so they can create a narrative. That's called Asia. But so you can know what I'm saying, so-called black people ruled all of Europe, and that was during the Renaissance when the Edomites, so-called white men, came back into power, and they enslaved a lot of them Jakes in England and Ireland and so on and so forth, and sent them in slave ships all over as well. It was a triangular slave trade from the which you know today as Europe, down to Africa, then you know the Caribbean, you know, and back into the Americas, and they was just moving, you know, slaves around perpetually, you know, and this how the scattering this is the big part of the scattering of the Israelites in modern times, but we had already been scattered from the ancient times. But to get back into my point, this represents Israel. Remember, the Most High is our husband, right? We're married unto him, just in a metaphoric sense. Israel is his bride, you know what I'm saying? But this is, you know, this is the state of our nation as being a dirty prostitute, man. A harlot turned out. You know, go for anything, don't stand for anything. Just all over the place, destroyed. You see this image. So let's get into some scriptures to make this make sense. Because our people have committed spiritual adultery in many different ways. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, Salaki. And that's why you see them in all kind of madness. They're all over the place. They're in one extreme to the next extreme. I was watching this podcast with T.I., and I think I might do a lesson on it. But it was complete madness, man. Jeremiah 3:1. It says, they say, if a man put away his wife and she go away from him, he becomes another man's. Shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers. And one of the spiritual adultery our people have done in modern times is JC. They've made that God, right? Yet return again to me, said Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah. So our people want to call on the Lord when it suits them, and they can't even get his name correct because it's all out of ignorance. It's all out of they think the Lord is like a genie, right? Anytime they get in any kind of trouble or they need something, they think they can just, you know, metaphorically speaking, you know, rub on that genie bottle and the Lord grants their wishes. And that's that dysfunctionality of the nation of Israel. But our people are defiled with many doctrines. It's like them laying down with many, like this harlot right here, you know, has laid down with many men. She's defiled. So that's a spiritual representation of Israel. The Israelites are defiled in the mind. They messed up in the mind. They can't get right. They can't get basic things right because of them committing spiritual adultery. Defiled. It says spoil. It says desecrate or profane, something sacred. It says right here, look at this, to make filthy. So we was once in that condition, but the Lord came and cleaned us up with the word, been washed through the word to come out of the filth of the world, which will be, so-called white Jesus. You got Jake that called himself an atheist. It's completely gone. Jake into the Islam demon. You got Jake worshiping Buddha. Jake worship themselves. They worship women. Jake worship a car. You got all kind of madness. It says made foul, dirty, unclean. It says polluted, tainted, morally. And that's why when you hear Jake talk about the Bible, it's all out of ignorance. It's all about these sayings that they heard growing up as a child. It's not based in any kind of fact. It's all confusion. And that's when you go look up the word Babylon, it means confusion. Let's go here. Let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. But this is a legacy of Israel being out there MF in mind. Let's go here. And this is why the northern kingdom went into captivity. Let's get into this. Let's just get right into it. It says 2 Kings 17:7. It says, for so it was, the children of Israel had sinned against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, their power, which have brought them out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. And don't even get started with the superstition with our people. They 2 Kings 17:8. And walk in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and the kings of Israel which they had made. Let's keep going. 2 Kings 17:9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. And that's why you seeing our people get worse and worse. We teaching, the word correctly, and they keep bucking up against it because them same spirits coming back in these bodies. They hate the word, so the Lord got to destroy them. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. So this ain't nothing new. This is the same spirit our people come in today. 2 Kings 17:10. That's how you know these are the Israelites. And they set them up images and groves in every high place, under every green tree. Even when you go into Brazil, they got that big statue. They actually just did another statue. I did a lesson on that. It's complete madness. And they have all these idols sprinkled all through the Americas. You know what I'm saying? They ain't got enough good sense to know that's not right, because they're going to show you the failure of the Christian pastor. 2 Kings 17:11. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, and did the heathen, whom the Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. That's why we find ourselves in captivity. This is a wicked invention right here by the so-called white man. That's in all the Israelites' mind, if they have not been woken up, because that's why you see this. When you go into these rappers, when you go into these jakes in the world, whether it's not this, they have a cross on, they have a cross tattooed on them, which is an object of Christianity, which is an idol, which is an object that they pray to. And even in some of these movies, they act like they're casting out a demon using the cross. You see how many different ways this witchcraft works? Let's go back here. I'm not going to have enough time. But you get it. You can read the whole 2 Kings 17. Going into Israel, disobedience, their idolatry, and their stubbornness, like you see today. Nothing has changed. It's just the elect of the nation of Israel has woke up out of this folly. And we repented, and we're not going after wickedness, man. Chasing them dumb idols. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. Bahashim Rachak Kodash Shalom.